Hello and welcome to TaleTalk English. Today's story is tense, emotional, and full of fear, guilt, and hope. It will also help you improve your English listening and vocabulary through simple conversations and real-life emotions. As you listen, try to imagine every scene, every expression, and every feeling. This is the story of a man whose life changed forever after a terrible accident on a rainy night. Let's begin. It was a cold Friday evening. The sky was dark. Heavy clouds covered the moon. A light rain was falling, making the roads wet and shiny. I was driving home after another long day at work. My name is John. I worked in a small office across town. It had been a difficult week. I had worked late every night. My eyes felt tired. My shoulders hurt. All I wanted was to get home, eat dinner, and sleep. The streets were almost empty. Most people were already home. Only a few cars passed me now and then. Soft music played on the radio. The warm air from the heater made me feel sleepy. I rubbed my eyes. Just a few more minutes, I whispered to myself. I stopped at a red light. I looked at the empty sidewalks. A man was walking his dog. A young couple stood under one umbrella. The light turned green. I drove forward again. The rain became heavier. The windshield wipers moved back and forth. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The sound filled the quiet car. I tightened my hands around the steering wheel. The road ahead looked blurry because of the rain. I slowed down a little. Then my phone buzzed. I looked at it. Just 1 second. A message from my younger brother. I wanted to know what he had written. I looked down. Only for a moment. Then, dang! A loud sound exploded in front of me. My heart nearly stopped. I slammed my foot on the brake. The tires screamed against the wet road. The car shook violently before stopping. Silence. Complete silence. My breathing became fast. What was that? My hands trembled. I looked through the windshield. At first, I saw nothing. Then I noticed something lying on the road. A person. Oh no! My voice was barely a whisper. I opened the car door and stepped outside. The cold rain hit my face immediately. My legs felt weak. Every step felt heavier than the last. The person was lying still. She looked young, maybe 20 years old. Her long, dark hair covered part of her face. She wore a gray jacket and blue jeans. One of her shoes had fallen off. My heart pounded so loudly that I could hear it. No, please! I knelt beside her. My hands were shaking. I gently touched her shoulder. Can you hear me? There was no answer. Fear filled my chest. Had I killed her? My breathing became faster. Then she moved, only a little. Her fingers twitched. Her eyes slowly opened. She tried to speak, but no words came out. Relief rushed through my body. Thank goodness! I almost cried. Don't move, I said softly. You've been hurt. She blinked slowly. She looked at me but did not seem to understand. I looked around. The street was empty. No other cars, no people, only rain, only darkness, only us. My mind raced. What should I do? Call an ambulance? Drive her to the hospital? Wait for someone? Every second felt longer than the last. I reached for my phone. My fingers were so cold that I almost dropped it. I started to dial the emergency number. Then I looked at the girl again. She closed her eyes. Her breathing became slower. Panic returned. What if they take too long? The hospital was only 10 minutes away. Maybe I could get her there faster. I didn't know. I had never been in a situation like this before. I looked up and down the empty street again. Still nobody. Rainwater ran across the road. The wind blew harder. The girl shivered. She was freezing. "I can't leave you here." I carefully placed one arm behind her back. She cried softly. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I have to help you." She was lighter than I expected. Very slowly, I lifted her into my arms. Her head rested against my shoulder. Her breathing was weak. I hurried toward my car. Every step filled me with fear. What if she stopped breathing? What if someone thought I had kidnapped her? What if she died before we reached the hospital? I pushed those thoughts away. Right now, only one thing mattered: getting her help. I opened the passenger door carefully. I placed her gently in the seat. I took off my jacket. It was warm. I covered her. Her lips were pale. Drops of rain covered her face. I closed the door. Then I ran to the driver's seat. My hands were still shaking. I started the engine. For a moment, I stared at the steering wheel. My heart refused to slow down. I looked at my phone again. Should I call the police now? Should I call an ambulance? Would they think I was guilty? Would they arrest me before helping her? I hated those thoughts. This was not about me. It was about her. I pressed the gas pedal. The car moved through the wet streets. I drove carefully, but as fast as I could. Every traffic light felt too long. Every turn felt too slow. I glanced at the girl every few seconds. She had not opened her eyes again. "Please stay with me," I whispered. "You'll be okay." I wasn't sure if she could hear me. The city looked different tonight. The bright lights reflected on the wet road. Stores were closing. Restaurants were still open. People laughed inside warm buildings. None of them knew what had just happened. Inside my car, fear filled every corner. I couldn't stop thinking, what if I had looked at my phone for 2 seconds instead of 1? What if I had driven slower? What if I had left work earlier? So many questions, no answers. A loud horn suddenly sounded behind me. I realized the traffic light had turned green. I quickly drove forward. Only 5 more minutes. I could do this. The girl suddenly moved. She opened her eyes halfway. She looked at me. Her voice was barely louder than the rain. "Where?" She stopped. "You're safe," I said. "I'm taking you to the hospital." She looked confused. She tried to lift her head. I shook mine. "Please don't move." She slowly closed her eyes again. My heart squeezed with worry. I drove even faster. Finally, I saw the bright blue hospital sign. Relief filled my chest. "We're here," I whispered. I turned into the emergency entrance. I parked as close as I could. Before the car completely stopped, I jumped out. I hurried to the passenger side. She was still breathing, thank goodness. I lifted her carefully once more. The automatic hospital doors opened. Bright white lights shined everywhere. Doctors walked quickly through the hallways. Machines beeped in the distance. The smell of medicine filled the air. A nurse saw us immediately. She hurried toward me. "What happened?" she asked. My throat felt dry. My words came out slowly. There was an accident. Please help her." The nurse looked at the young woman. She quickly called for more help. Within seconds, 2 doctors arrived with a stretcher. Together, we placed the girl on it. The doctors immediately began checking her. One nurse measured her heartbeat. Another checked her head and arms. Everything happened so fast. The stretcher rolled away. I stood there alone. My clothes were wet. My hands still shook. A nurse stopped beside me. "Sir," she said kindly, "you should sit down." I nodded silently. She pointed toward the waiting area. I walked there slowly. Every step felt heavier than before. I sat in one of the blue chairs. The hospital was warm, but I still felt cold. I looked down at my hands. They would not stop shaking. I closed my eyes. One thought kept repeating inside my mind. What happens now? I sat in the waiting area. The hospital was quiet. Doctors walked through the halls. Nurses spoke in soft voices. Machines beeped somewhere in the distance. Everything around me seemed calm, but my mind was not calm. My hands were still shaking. I looked down at them. They felt cold. I rubbed them together, hoping they would stop trembling. They did not. I leaned back in the chair. My heart was still beating fast. I could not stop thinking about the girl. Was she alive? Was she badly hurt? Would she ever wake up again? I closed my eyes for a moment. The accident played again and again inside my head. The rain, the loud sound, the brakes, her body on the road. I wished I could go back a few minutes and change everything, but I couldn't. The past was already gone. Now I had to face the future. Several minutes passed, or maybe an hour. I was no longer sure. Time felt strange. Every second seemed longer than normal. I looked toward the emergency room doors. They stayed closed. No one came. My stomach felt empty. I had not eaten since lunch, but I wasn't hungry anymore. Fear had taken away my appetite. Finally, a nurse walked toward me. She looked kind. She smiled gently. "Are you the man who brought the young woman here?" she asked. I stood up quickly. "Yes. Is she okay?" The nurse nodded. "She's stable." My shoulders relaxed. I had been holding my breath without realizing it. "Thank you," I whispered. "Can I see her?" "Not yet," the nurse replied. "The doctors are still examining her." I nodded. "I understand." She looked at me carefully. "Are you a family member?" My heart skipped a beat. "No." "A friend?" I shook my head. "I've never met her before." The nurse looked surprised. "You don't know her?" "No. I found her after the accident." I could hardly say the words. Her smile disappeared. "I see." She looked at her clipboard. "Someone will need to ask you some questions." I already knew who she meant. The police. Fear returned immediately. I slowly sat down again. My legs suddenly felt weak. What would I tell them? Would they believe me? Would they think I was lying? I replayed every moment in my mind. I had looked at my phone, only for 1 second, but 1 second had changed everything. I covered my face with my hands. I was so careless. A few minutes later, I heard footsteps, heavy footsteps. I looked up. 2 police officers entered the waiting area. One was a tall man with gray hair. The other was a younger woman carrying a notebook. They spoke quietly with the nurse. She pointed toward me. Both officers walked over. My heart beat faster. The tall officer stopped in front of me. "Good evening. Are you John?" "Yes." "I'm Officer Miller. This is Officer Davis." The woman gave a polite nod. "We need to ask you some questions." I swallowed. "Okay. Please, sit." I sat down again. Officer Miller remained standing. Officer Davis opened her notebook. Officer Miller spoke first. "Can you tell us exactly what happened?" I took a deep breath. My voice shook. "I was driving home. It was raining. The road was wet. I looked at my phone for just a second. I heard a loud sound. I stopped the car. When I got out, I paused. My throat became tight. I saw her lying on the road." Officer Davis continued writing. Officer Miller listened quietly. "Did you call emergency services?" I looked at the floor. "No." "Why not?" "I was afraid." The words came out softly. "I thought driving her here would be faster." The officers looked at each other. Neither of them spoke for a moment. Finally, Officer Miller nodded. "You should always call emergency services." "I know. I'm sorry, but bringing her here quickly may have helped." I looked up. "You mean, you made a mistake, but you didn't leave her alone. That matters." His words made me feel a little better. Only a little. Officer Davis asked another question. "Did anyone else see the accident?" "I don't think so. The road was empty." "Were you drinking tonight?" "No." "Have you taken any medicine?" "No." "Were you driving above the speed limit?" "I don't think so." Officer Davis wrote everything down. Officer Miller looked at me again. "We'll also check the security cameras in the area." I nodded. "I understand. If we need anything else, we'll come back." They thanked me and walked away. I let out a long breath. The conversation was over, but my fear was not. I stared at the floor. The waiting area slowly became busier. People came and went. A child cried. Someone laughed. Someone answered a phone call. Life continued around me, but mine felt frozen. About 30 minutes later, Officer Miller returned alone. He sat beside me. "You look exhausted." "I am." "When was the last time you ate?" I thought for a moment. "This afternoon." He reached into his pocket. He handed me a small packet of crackers. "You should eat something." I looked at him in surprise. "Thank you." He smiled slightly. "I've seen many accidents. The waiting is often the hardest part." I opened the crackers. I wasn't hungry, but I ate them anyway. He stood up again. "We're still reviewing the camera footage. I'll let you know what we find." "Thank you." After he left, I leaned back again. The crackers did little to calm my stomach. My thoughts kept returning to the young woman. Who was she? Did she have parents waiting somewhere? Did anyone know where she was? Did someone love her? I hoped someone did. No one should be alone, especially not after something like this. Almost another hour passed. Then the same nurse returned. This time she looked happier. She woke up. "Really?" "Yes." She asked a few questions. "She is tired, but she is awake." Relief filled my chest. "Can I see her now?" The nurse smiled. "She asked to see the man who brought her here." I stared at her. "Me?" "Yes." I couldn't believe it. I slowly stood. My legs still felt weak. The nurse led me down a long hallway. Bright lights shined above us. The floor was so clean that it reflected the lights. We stopped outside a small room. The nurse opened the door. "There she is." I stepped inside slowly. The room was quiet. The young woman lay in bed. A bandage covered one side of her forehead. Her arm rested in a sling. She looked tired, but she was awake. She turned her head. Our eyes met. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she smiled. It was small, but it was real. "You brought me here," she said softly. I nodded. "Yes." "I'm sorry." The words came out before I could stop them. "I'm so sorry." She looked surprised. "You saved me." I shook my head. "I hit you." "You also refused to leave me." Tears filled my eyes. "I was terrified." "I know." Her voice was gentle. "I was scared too." Silence filled the room again. Then she held out her hand. "My name is Emily." I carefully shook it. "I'm John." "It's nice to meet you." She smiled again. "I wish we had met another way." I laughed quietly. "So do I." For the first time that night, I felt a little hope. Emily smiled at me. She still looked weak. Her face was pale. There was a bandage on her forehead, but she was alive. That was the most important thing. I pulled a chair closer to her bed. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The room was quiet. Only the sound of the heart monitor filled the silence. Beep, beep, beep. Emily looked out the window. The rain had finally stopped. "I don't remember everything," she said softly. I nodded. "You don't have to talk." She looked back at me. "I remember crossing the street. I remember the rain. Then I heard tires. After that," she closed her eyes for a second, "everything went dark." I looked at the floor. I should never have looked at my phone. My voice was full of regret. "I'm so sorry." Emily shook her head gently. "It was an accident, but accidents can still change lives." Her words stayed in my mind. Just then there was a knock on the door. Officer Miller and Officer Davis walked inside. They both looked serious. My heart started beating faster again. Officer Miller smiled politely. "We have finished reviewing the security camera footage." I stood up. My hands became cold. "What did you find?" He opened a folder. The cameras showed everything. I held my breath. Officer Davis looked at Emily. "We're glad you're feeling better." Emily smiled weakly. "Thank you." Officer Miller looked back at me. "The investigation is complete." I waited. Every second felt like a minute. "You were driving within the speed limit." I slowly nodded. The road was wet. Visibility was poor. I listened carefully. "You did look at your phone." My heart sank. "Yes, I know. I made a terrible mistake." Officer Miller continued. "But the cameras also showed something important." I looked at him. Emily looked at him too. The traffic light for pedestrians had already turned red. Emily looked surprised. She tried to remember. Officer Davis nodded kindly. "You began crossing after the signal changed." Emily looked down. "I didn't notice. The rain made it difficult to see." Officer Miller closed the folder. "The accident was caused by several unfortunate events: the weather, the poor visibility, the phone distraction, and crossing after the light changed." He paused. "This was a tragic accident, but it was not a crime." I let out a long breath. I had been carrying a heavy weight all night. Now it finally felt lighter. Officer Miller smiled. "You are free to go." I could hardly believe it. "Really?" He nodded. "Yes, but let this be a lesson." I nodded immediately. "It already is." "I promise." Officer Davis smiled. "Never look at your phone while driving." "I never will again." The officers wished Emily a quick recovery. Then they quietly left the room. Silence returned. I sat back down. Emily looked at me. "You've been blaming yourself all night." "I have." "You shouldn't carry all of it." I looked at her. "I still made a mistake." She nodded. "And so did I. We were both lucky." I smiled a little. "Very lucky." Just then, another knock came at the door. A young man rushed inside. His face was full of worry. "Emily!" Emily smiled. "David!" He hurried to her bedside. He gently hugged her. "I was so worried." "I'm okay." He looked at me. "Are you the man who brought my sister here?" I nodded. "Yes." He stepped toward me. For a moment, I didn't know what he would do. Then he held out his hand. "Thank you." I stared at him. "You don't have to thank me. I was part of the accident." He shook his head. "You could have driven away. You didn't. You stayed. You carried her here. You waited. That means more than you know." I slowly shook his hand. "I'm just glad she's alive." "So am I." David smiled warmly. "Our parents are flying here tomorrow morning. They'll want to thank you, too." I smiled politely. "Please tell them Emily was very brave." Emily laughed quietly. "I didn't feel brave." "You were." The room suddenly felt much brighter. Not because of the lights, because the fear was finally disappearing. I looked at the clock. It was almost 3 in the morning. "I should let you both rest." Emily nodded.
You've had a long night. So have you. I stood up. Before leaving, I looked at Emily one last time. I'm truly sorry. She smiled kindly, and I'm truly thankful. Those words stayed with me. I walked out of the hospital room. The hallway seemed quieter now. The waiting room was almost empty. Outside, the rain had stopped. The cold air touched my face. The sky was beginning to grow lighter. Morning was coming. I walked slowly toward my car. It was still parked where I had left it. I opened the driver's door. Then I stopped. I looked at my phone. It was still lying on the passenger seat. I picked it up. For a long moment, I simply looked at it. One small screen, one quick glance, one terrible mistake. I turned it off completely. Then I placed it inside the glove compartment. From that day on, I made myself one promise. Whenever I drive, my phone stays out of my hands. No message is more important than a human life. No phone call is worth risking someone's future. Some lessons are expensive. Some lessons stay with us forever. Mine came on a cold, rainy night. An accident changed 2 lives, but kindness changed the ending. Emily recovered over the next few months. She returned to work. She often sent me short messages to let me know she was doing well. Sometimes we met for coffee. We laughed about the strange way we first met. We never forgot that night, but we chose to remember something more important. People make mistakes. What matters is what they do afterward. Running away is easy. Taking responsibility is difficult. Helping someone, even when you are afraid, is the right choice. That night taught me to be more careful. It also taught me to value every second of life, because everything can change in just one moment. I hope this story reminds you to drive carefully. Keep your eyes on the road. Protect yourself. Protect others. One safe decision can save a life. Thank you for listening to today's English story. I hope this story helped you improve your English while teaching an important lesson. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for more interesting English stories. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next story.